Do you ever find yourself dealing with crippling sadness, anxiety, or numbness? Or maybe you have difficulty identifying how you feel in the moment. You feel like maybe your mind and your body are completely separate and you just feel lost and numb. These may be effects of gaslighting. My name is Dr. Felucia, and I'm a licensed psychologist. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you how gaslighting can specifically affect your mental and emotional state. If you're not familiar with what gaslighting is, I'd encourage you to go to my videos where I talk about this subject in depth. But basically, when somebody is gaslighting you, they are trying to control your perception of reality. They try to get you to doubt your ability to perceive your mind, your emotions, and everything around you clearly. That's how gaslighting works. It's an erosive process, and the person who is doing the gaslighting is trying to control you. So, if there's anything I want you to remember about gaslighting, the goal of gaslighting is to gain control, but do it in a surreptitious and sneaky manner. And the way this happens is through gaslighting. So, for instance, let's say that you are in an argument or a discussion with somebody who is gaslighting you, they will attempt to make you feel like you are going crazy. They try to make you feel like you can't perceive what is going on around you accurately. So, for instance, you might point out something very obvious, and the person who is gaslighting you will not only deny it, but that they will say that there's something wrong with you because you don't perceive things their way. So, that is gaslighting. For instance, I'll give you an example. Let's say that a couple is fighting and they're in an argument. The one of the spouse comes home very late, and the person who was on the receiving end of the gaslighting says, "Oh my goodness, where have you been?" And the person who was gaslighting will say something along the lines of, "I'm not home late," or "I told you I was going to be home late," when they didn't do that, right? And so not and then when the person who is being gaslit has some strong reactions to it, or they say, that's not what happened, the person who is gaslighting them will try to make it seem like they are crazy or they're controlling or they just can't perceive things around them accurately. So they may say something like, "What is the big deal? Why are you attacking me?" Even though it's not normal for their relationship for somebody to be gone for hours on end. Okay. So that's what gaslighting can look like. Now, how does gaslighting affect your mind and your emotions? It's something I've said in my previous videos on gaslighting, but gaslighting is an erosive process, right? It is something that happens slowly over time. And people who are victims of gaslighting have their confidence eroded. They start to doubt themselves. So if they have a problem with something, they might think, well, maybe I'm too sensitive, or maybe I just have a problem understanding reality. And this is what happens when people are being gaslit repeatedly. They lose confidence in themselves and they lose confidence in their own abilities. And so, how does this affect us mentally and emotionally? Anybody who has received, on the receiving end of gaslighting, has most likely been a victim of any kind of emotional, psychological, or spiritual abuse. And part of how we cope with that is by trying to preserve ourselves, right? We only have so much time and energy to argue back and forth with somebody who's trying to control you. So something that depression can happen as a result of that, right? And it doesn't have to be clinical depression, but it could be sustained periods of sad mood or very intense sad mood. I'm going to explain how that can happen. Depression can be caused by something known as learned helplessness. And learned helplessness basically means that you believe, or not even that you believe, you are in a situation where your actions don't matter, right? And you are helpless to change the situation. And for anybody who's been on the receiving end of gaslighting, you know how difficult and pretty much impossible it is for you to convince a gaslighter that what they're doing is wrong, right? And so anyway, when you learn over time that this is pretty much a waste of your time and it's not going to work, you begin to feel helpless, and that's where the depression and the sadness and just the feeling of helplessness comes in. And so one way that gaslighting can affect you is by you feeling depressed, right? And I'm not talking about depression as in like a clinical diagnosis. That can happen, but for some people, it's just feeling, feeling sad, feeling helpless, feeling low motivation, energy, things like that, even without having a clinical diagnosis at the time. Another way that gaslighting can affect you is by making you feel anxious. Now, think about it. Every time that you are in interaction with somebody who is emotionally abusing you through gaslighting, you have no control. They are the ones controlling you and pulling the strings. And so it's normal for anybody to feel anxious when they're in a situation where they're constantly being questioned, constantly being put down, and where they feel like their independence and their agency is being threatened. And that's exactly what happens with people who gaslight you. Well, not with them. It's you're the one who's experiencing that on your own, and is that anxiety. So people can feel depressed, people can feel anxious. Before I go on, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, please do so, and also like, share, and comment. That will really help this video get out to other people who can benefit from it. So I talked about feeling depressed. I talked about feeling anxious. Another thing is just numbness. And in my work with individuals who have experienced emotional abuse, psychological abuse, spiritual abuse, a lot of times they describe feeling numb, right? It's almost like they don't have any emotions at all, or they can't identify the emotions they're feeling. And this is a normal response to gaslighting. If you think about it, like I said before, gaslighting is an erosive process. It happens over and over and over again, and people get mentally tired. And so if you are just trying to get through your day and you are trying to conserve all your mental and emotional resources, you might have very little to spend on emotional expression and also identifying those emotions. And also think about it. If you've been on the receiving end of gaslighting, think about what happens when you respond emotionally. It gets used against you. So somebody might say, somebody who's gaslighting you might do something horrible to you or say something really mean, and you get angry, and they say, "Oh my gosh, why are you acting so angry? I was only joking," or this and this or whatever. So it's like anything, you do, or any kind of emotional expression that you have is used against you, usually to tell you you're too sensitive, you're misinterpreting things, you don't see things the same way they do. And that just reinforces the message that you cannot accurately perceive your reality. And so a lot of people describe this feeling of numbness. I've used this analogy before on my channel, but they'll feel like their head or their mind is a balloon that's like floating separately from their body. And it can be a really tough thing to go through. But I also want you to understand that that is kind of our mind and our psyche's way of protecting us, especially from emotional overload. There's only so much that we can take. And so for some people, this is a way of survival for them, and for them to just like get through their day. And it's a really awful experience. And for any of you that have gone through this, I'm just really sorry, because I know that it can be really challenging. So there's the numbness, and then sometimes you will have rage and anger. Gaslighters are not emotionally safe people. And so in a healthy relationship, you can express anger appropriately, right? You can say, look, what you did made me feel really angry. You can express your dislike about something, as long as it's healthy and in a healthy way, and in a way that's not like out of control or abusive. It's healthy for people to express anger to one another. However, if you are in a relationship with somebody who is gaslighting you, you can't get angry. You can express the anger because it will be used against you. It will be used to paint you as a bad person, somebody who's out of control, somebody who is out to get them. Something that I'm sure you know firsthand about gaslighters, that they love to make themselves the victims. And so in situations like this, they refuse to take any kind of accountability or responsibility for how they are causing you harm. And so the way they deflect this responsibility is by blaming you. And so if you show any type of anger, it's going to be used against you. So sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you feel safe feeling rage against the person who is gaslighting you. You might feel like you hate them. you just feel, you might feel like your anger is out of control. And again, this is normal. Sometimes even delayed emotional reactions can happen because you are trying to keep yourself safe in that moment. And I don't want you, is you take inventory of all of these. One thing I want to emphasize to you is for you to have compassion for yourself. Don't judge yourself and don't blame yourself for feeling this way, because these are all normal reactions to being abused and manipulated by somebody who wants to control and dominate you. They're the problem, not you. And so I hope that this information helps you. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Can you identify with any of these emotional reactions? And again, I'm going to describe them: depression, anxiety, feeling numb, feeling rage or anger, and also just having a delayed expression of these emotions. Okay, so I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. If you would like to book a consultation with me to help you on your recovery journey, you can go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, click on the link, and there's an orange button that says book a free consultation. You can click that link and then I will reach out to you. If you haven't heard from me in 2 business days, go ahead and email me as well. It's Dr. Felucia at skillsetcounseling.com. All right. I hope you have a day that is filled with peace and joy. Bye-bye.